At 6 a.m., he was just a janitor, quietly mopping the marble floors, unnoticed by anyone. A cup of coffee slipped and splashed across the polished surface. Mike bent down and cleaned it up without saying a word. Nearby, 3 well-dressed young men sneered. One of them muttered with a smirk, "He looks like trash in a uniform." They laughed. To them, he was a nobody, not even worth a second glance. But then, the distant sound of helicopter blades broke the silence. Tires screeched sharply against the concrete. In a matter of seconds, the building was surrounded by military vehicles and heavily armed soldiers. A young soldier rushed into the lobby, walked straight up to Mike, stood at attention, and said, "Colonel, we're ready." The lobby fell silent. They had only seen a janitor. What they didn't know was that he once led an entire battalion into battle. His name was Mike, around 60 years old. Every day, like clockwork, he arrived at the building at 6 sharp, wearing a neatly pressed dark blue shirt, sleeves rolled with military precision. He worked quietly, mopping floors, emptying trash bins, straightening the crooked welcome mat. He'd pause at the front desk to help the young receptionist with the jammed printer, then move on without a word. No one asked his name. No one looked at him for more than 3 seconds. His right arm had been seriously injured years ago. Every time he wrung out a mop, lifted a bucket, or opened a heavy bin lid, he paused, rotated his wrist slightly, jaw clenched against the pain. The ache reached deep into the bone, turning even routine tasks into a slow battle. On weekends, he always visited the physical therapy clinic. Electrotherapy, acupuncture, joint treatment. Everything came at a high cost, but he never once complained. Mike didn't talk much, but every move he made had discipline. The way he folded cleaning cloths, arranged his tools, or laid out the blanket in the break room. Everything was square, tight, almost measured. One day, while rolling up his sleeve to fix a leaking pipe, someone caught a glimpse of an old, faded tattoo, the insignia of a Special Forces unit. No one paid it much attention, but to someone with experience, the way he walked, back straight, eyes scanning the room, was enough to know this man was not ordinary. The group of young men from the penthouse were spoiled, loud, and entitled. They treated the building like their personal playground, and Mike, to them, was just the janitor guy, invisible and unimportant. It started with snide remarks in passing. "Hurry up, old man," or "This place is dirty because you're too slow." Then came the pranks, dumping trash on freshly cleaned floors, kicking over his mop bucket, or banging on his water pail just to startle him while he worked. One day, they secretly filmed Mike and posted the clip on TikTok with the caption, "This is what failure looks like." The video got hundreds of likes and laughing comments. Mike didn't react. He kept working as usual. But after discovering that the boys had broken into his supply closet and taken a spray bottle to vandalize a wall downstairs, he silently replaced the lock and reinforced it. They were furious. The next day, one of them bumped into him on purpose. Another leaned in and muttered just loud enough, "Who do you think you are, locking that up? All it takes is one call, and you're fired. My dad's a lead investor in this building." Another one laughed and added, "Yeah, you mess with us, we'll have management throw you out. Now go clean something." Mike stood tall, looking straight at them without a word. But his eyes, calm, cold, unwavering, made one of them pause mid-step, then quickly turn away. Ever since the supply closet had been locked, the boys from the penthouse grew more aggressive. They deliberately trashed the hallways, dumped garbage in front of the maintenance room, and smeared food and marker ink on the walls. One time, they even threw a torn bag of trash right where Mike had just cleaned, laughing loudly. "Oops, slipped." Mike didn't react. He quietly picked up every piece, continuing his work as if he hadn't heard a thing. But they kept pushing. One afternoon, as he walked past the elevator lobby, one of them threw a cup of hot coffee straight at his chest. The coffee soaked into his shirt, dripping onto the clean floor. Mike stood still for a few seconds, looked directly at the group, then turned and walked away without a word. As he disappeared down the hallway, one of them called out loudly, "You're counting your last days here, old man. No one keeps a useless janitor around forever." Another added with a sneer, Let's see how you survive without this job. No money, no insurance, no future. Maybe get used to sleeping on the street, yeah? A third laughed even harder. I don't get how you stand this pathetic job. Scrubbing toilets in a luxury tower? That's just sad, man. Their laughter echoed down the corridor. But then, as Mike stepped into the break room and took off his outer jacket, one of them caught a glimpse, on his right arm, a faded tattoo, a skull wearing a military beret, Latin text beneath it, and the emblem of a Special Forces unit. That one froze. No one said a word. But for the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed the eyes of even the cockiest among them. Within minutes of Mike's signal, the military arrived. No hesitation. No questions. Every movement was swift, precise, executed like a live mission. The commanding officer stepped forward, stood tall, and saluted sharply. "Colonel Mike, we got your signal." Mike gave a small nod and pointed to the suspicious backpack in the hallway. "Clear the perimeter. Fast and clean." As soldiers began locking down the area, the commander stepped toward the gathered residents, his eyes scanning the crowd sharply. This was a false alarm. "A prank," he said coldly. Then, raising his voice, "Who did this? Step forward. Now!" Silence. Tension filled the air. Then, one of the young men from the penthouse group slowly stepped forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "It was us. We didn't mean any harm. We just wanted to mess with Mr. Mike a little. We didn't know it would get this serious." The officer narrowed his eyes, then snapped, "Do you have any idea who you're messing with?" He marched up, jabbing a finger into the young man's chest. "This isn't just a janitor. You're messing with a former Special Forces commander, a man who's led real missions, under fire, where every second counted. You risked the lives of this entire building with your little joke." At that moment, a man in a tailored suit stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried a hint of entitlement.